Welcome to Spotlight Sessions, where we shine
What's
a light
your story?
on incredible impact. What does accessibility mean to you?
What's your mission?
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spotlight Sessions. My name is Avital and I am the host for today. And I'm really excited to be speaking with Diane Nelson, who's the Executive Director of the Visually Impaired Preschool Services, also known as VIPS. How are you today, Diane?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for being with us today. And let's dive right in. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am the Executive Director of VIPS, and VIPS stands for Visually Impaired Preschool Services, which really kind of doesn't define what we do. But from age birth to age 5, or when the school systems take over, VIPS provides early intervention services for children that are born or diagnosed with blindness. So I personally came from a corporate career and retired 14 years ago to lead the agency and in the nonprofit realm, because we are a nonprofit, and feel like this is the best work I've ever done. We're mission driven, and we're family friendly, and we're changing the lives of children who are born with blindness. So
That's amazing. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about VIPS? Maybe when the organization started, what types of services that you offer, where you're located.
yes, so VIPS was founded in 1985 because no one was providing early intervention or services to parents who just found out their child was blind. So a small group of passionate people in this region in Louisville, Kentucky, came together and provided a solution. And with $20,000, they started with a caseload of 8 children. Basically, the mission of VIPS is to support families and make sure that children have the tools needed to enter preschool on the same level as their peers or their highest potential. So from birth, we send a teacher to the home. In the homes, we work with the skill sets that the child will need to enter into preschool and then into kindergarten and then continue their career. So we started with a caseload of 8 children in Louisville, Kentucky, but we now serve 2 entire states, all 120 counties in Kentucky and 92 counties in Indiana. We have offices in Louisville, Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky, and Indianapolis, Indiana. And our teachers travel to wherever those children are across those 2 entire states. So
That's amazing. So, could you give our viewers maybe a few examples of what those services can include from like all different age ranges?
yes, absolutely. So 90% of what a child learns is through the visual pathways, and 85% of brain development occurs before age 6. So it's really critical that when a child is born with blindness or vision loss, that we provide the parents tools to learn how to talk the world to their child. To a child born with blindness doesn't move because they don't
Get
see
the visual
anything that
stimulation.
motivates them to do things differently. A story that really, because my background's not education and I'm the finance person, a story that really brought it to perspective for me was a parent who came to us from 2 hours away every day for 2 years. And she said the reason that she did it was because she enrolled her baby into a preschool program and they handed her a Lego shaped like a tree, and they told the child that was a tree. And she said, it hit me then, my child will never know what a tree is. My child will
Yeah.
think a tree is is a Lego. What we have been so fortunate as sighted adults or sighted people to have the luxury of is, as a parent, you get to point to an item like a tree and label it tree. And then we learn what that is from that one cue. And we learn that it grows out of the ground and it has grass and leaves and dirt. There's leaves that are on and leaves that are off, and they're green and brown. And we learn all of that from one word and a visual cue. So what we do is teach the parents how to teach their children that world without having that visual cue. We also
Yeah.
teach orientation and mobility, which is how to encourage a child to move safely around in their environment. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we we teach what's called the expanded core curriculum, which are the 8 things that a visually impaired child will need that they don't get naturally through their environment. One of them, for
Mm-hmm.
example, is socialization skills. You know, a lot of social contact comes from eye to eye contact.
Right.
And so we teach those children that. We teach probably the most important things are advocacy, being able to advocate for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
independence, literacy, all of those things that children need traditionally, but we teach it in a different way.
Mm-hmm. That's so important. I actually do have a background in education, and one of the main things that you learn is that everybody learns differently.
Absolutely.
And it's really amazing that you are not only teaching parents, but also teaching children how to how to learn differently and without sight. And it's so important. It's definitely very important. Um, so, are there any specific accomplishments that you're most proud of, either at your time or during your time at VIPS, or maybe prior to your time at VIPS that they've gone through, or that you've gone through?
Yeah, well, actually, there's so much that I'm proud of
I'm
because
sure.
what VIPS provides is not the norm. Uh,
Hmm.
in the United States, state to state, services are provided differently because the
Hmm.
money goes to the state and the state decides how to spend it
Right.
for early intervention for children with challenges. And so in Kentucky and Indiana, um, you know, what we do is highly regarded within the field. And we have visitors that come to Louisville, Kentucky to see our center-based program from all over the world. Just about a month ago, we had a group of 7 from Qatar who had heard about us and decided to come over and explore what we're doing that's not um, the norm in education for these children. So when you walk into our center-based program, and here we have children on a daily basis, age 2 to 5,
Hmm.
um, you if you're on tile, there's an entry or exit door. If you're on carpet, there's not. There's built-in cues on how to mobilize within our building. Um,
Hmm.
Everything is Braille rich. We really can't tell at this age whether a child will be a Braille reader or not. So Braille is introduced as soon as they've entered into our building. We have a sensory room. We have a sensory garden where children learn the concept of food to mouth. Um, but all of these things came together because we had a board who felt like it was really critical if we were going to build this, it had to be the best of the best of the best. Best practices,
Definitely.
best
Yeah.
facilities. They were able to garner support through a lot of community agencies and foundations,
Hmm.
and were able to introduce into this facility every pipe dream that they had to elevate what we're offering. So I'm really proud of that. I'm proud that when we go to national conferences, they want to hear our voice regarding early childhood for visually impaired children, and that we've grown to be um, uh, a critical lead in that effort to change the lives of children with blindness.
Definitely. And one of the last questions that we typically ask is, what if you had one message, what would that be for the business community? But just based off of our conversation, I'm curious if you had kind of just one message to either parents who are currently going through this that may not be able to take advantage of the services that you offer. Maybe they're not in the state or in the country. What would be that one message that you would give to parents about having a child who either has low vision or is blind, and how to help them, see the world through, their own way.
Well, I think my most critical advice to that person would be don't take no for an answer. Your child deserves all the adaptations that exist now to help that child succeed. And just because your state may not provide that, or your city or wherever you're located across the world, that's it's not acceptable. You have to find those services. You have to find that ability. One of the things that we've done recently is launch a podcast, because parents can listen to that podcast, and it's called Feeling This Life, and it's available wherever podcasts are. But it talks about the importance of advocating, because there's so many ways that you can help a child that exists today in our world that didn't exist years ago when we were founded. So find those people that can help you provide resources, even though your community may not. Reach out, because if you advocate, your child will learn to advocate. Yeah.
Definitely. And that's such great advice, to be able to find and look for those resources that are available. And the last question that I want to ask is, what does accessibility mean to you? And we ask this question to everybody, and everybody gives a really different answer. So I would just love to hear what accessibility means to you.
To me, it means the great equalizer, because tools that exist today that help our clientele throughout their life um, make it easier for them to live in a world that's not necessarily accessible. So, um, we think it's wonderful now as an adult blind person. You can hold your phone up to your clothing, and it can tell you what color your shirt is and is it striped, and you can go to the
Right.
grocery, and there's an app that someone can shop along with you by using your phone to see what's on the shelves and tell you what the price is. And so it's a great equalizer of independence, of freedom, of all of those things that we as sighted people often take for granted. It's critical for the deaf community, for any person that has abilities different than the norm. Accessibility is the great equalizer.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We will, of course, put all of the information about VIPS and the podcast in the show notes. And if any one of our listeners or our viewers want to get in touch with VIPS, either to learn more or to take advantage of some of those resources, how could they go ahead and do so?
Well, our website is www.vips.org. Our main line is actually, I'll have to cheat to look at the 800 number, because I only know the regular number, but they can call us at 888 636 8477. That's the corporate office, and we can dispatch to whatever location or whatever teacher. And then on our website, there's resources that they can link to. And my name's Diane Nelson. Feel free to reach out to me directly, and I will gladly help people obtain the resources that they need to improve the life of their child.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about VIPS and all that you're doing. And I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.